Hello, stampers and fellow paper crafters. It's Cindy Lynn with my Inkie fingers. Happy Monday. I hope this video finds you safe, happy, and well. Today, I'm just going to wing it, and I haven't actually made one of these cards in advance. I'm going to make 4 of them as I go along and just tell you what I'm using as I go. So if you haven't been here before on a Monday, this is the Let's Case It, Let's Make It series, and I shall put a card right up here, the one that I am going to case for you guys. So I'm using a different stamp set because I didn't have the stamp set that it had in the catalog, so we're going to use a different one. So I started with a piece of Canson XL watercolor paper, and I've already used my blue tape to tape that down to my board, and I used a spray bottle of water, and I really saturated this paper because I wanted the ink, which ink was that now? That was the Balmy Blue. I wanted the Balmy Blue to just kind of spread and do its own thing organically and naturally when it hit the paper. So the wetter that it is, the softer your bleed will be when you put the ink down. So I knew that I kind of wanted a little bit of a kind of a cloudy daytime blue background type thing. So I'm going to use my paper towel a little bit throughout this because I want to keep the ink from going to the edge. I don't want any harsh straight lines because my vellum is just going to go over top of this watercolored image, and I don't want any super straight lines. So I'm just kind of going in and adding ink randomly. I'm just dotting it on. You can do this in any way that's comfortable for you. You can do back and forth. You can, just use watercolors. You don't have to use the reinkers, but I'm going to dry this now because I want to come in with a second layer. So I left that pretty slow for you guys, but I am going to speed this up here. So I'm going in with a lot more concentration of ink, and I'm going to dry that. And then I'm going to spray it with the water bottle. And as you can see, when you spray it, you get this really soft kind of wispy effect on there, kind of cloudy, right? And then the more that you dry it, you'll get those little lines like where the ink wants to kind of pool, and it'll create darker lines. So I really like that effect. So I'm going to put that aside, and I'm going to pull out the beautiful Bouquet. Now this was the very first stamp set I ever got when I got my kit. I love this set. It's so versatile. You can use it for so many different things. I'm going to ink up that flower there in the Blushing Bride, and I'm going to use the Rococo Rose with the dauber just to kind of go around the outside. It just gives your flower more dimension and added color because I wanted the edges darker. Now I could have tried to reverse it and gone darker in the center and lighter on the outside, but it's a lot easier to do it this way, right? If you wanted to do it the other way, you'd have to use a clean dauber and remove the ink and then go in with a lighter ink. So it shouldn't be too hard, but I really liked this effect. Now, when I'm stamping those, I stamped each of the flowers the exact same position. So when I go to die cut them, it's a lot easier. So I'm going to bring out my vellum, and I'm just going to take this tape off of my watercolor paper. And as you can see, I'm saving it on my board. I use it 3 or 4 times, so that tape goes a long way. I'm going to lay the vellum over top of the background, and I'm going to tear off about 1 inch all the way down, but I don't want it to be straight. So as you can see, I'm kind of just going in and out and making sure that I have like a really rough edge there. Now I'm going to stamp it, and I'm going to use just the twig or the branch, I guess, if you will, and I'm going to stamp 3. Now 2 of them are this one, and I go back into the stamp set to grab the other branch because it doesn't have as many little twigs and stuff on the end. So I wanted a little bit different of a stamp for the 3rd time that I go in. So I'm just going in now with the Early Espresso and just doing a nice dark ink on there. Now, ink takes a lot longer to dry on vellum, and you can, if you have the Stampin' Up! Heat gun, heat it on low because there is 2 settings, and your paper won't curl as much. But you know what? If you just put this to the side, it'll dry, and then you shouldn't have too much of a problem. You shouldn't have to use your heat gun. But if you do, make sure you use the low setting. So I'm going to use the Hello Friend out of the Seriously the Best, and I'm going to ink this 3 times. Now, I have this piece of acetate that I printed a graph paper on, and I stamped it on the graph paper first because that way I can get perfect position because I can't see through the red rubber, right? So that allows me to get a perfect position there. So I'm going to pull out the little tiny little flower, and I just want to stamp those on the ends of the branch there where there's no leaves. And I'm going to do 3 on each, and then I'm just going to do 1 on the bottom one. Now, I have a whole lot of flowers there because I'm making 4 of these cards, but I'm going to use 3 flowers, and I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to curl the edges up. Now, it just looked pretty for the photos, and of course, if you mail this, they're going to go flat. There's nothing you can really do about that. So, but I just kind of like the way it looked with them curled up there. So you can use the end of any pencil that's a little thinner. You know, you don't want it too thick because you don't want your paper to crack when you're trying to curl it, right? So I'm going to use the mini dimensionals, and I'm just going to stick 1 on the back of each of these flowers. Now, here's your tip. That's where you're going to put your liquid glue to adhere down your vellum, because you want your vellum, you want your glue, sorry, to hide, right? So I also took the Light Mango Melody, and I just kind of put a little dot in the middle of each of those pink flowers. It's much easier to see in person and in the photos. So I've got 2 of those going right now. I'm going to do 2 off camera, but I did pull out those basic pearl, basic jewels. You can do this, Cindy Lynn. So those there I colored with the Rococo Rose, the light Rococo Rose Stampin' Blend. You can color those with any alcohol marker, which is super, super cool. Now, I did use the extreme adhesive just because I did have a lot of water on that paper and I wanted it to really lay down flat, right? So that twine there I pulled out of the August 2019 Paper Pumpkin. They give you so much twine or ribbon when they give you the little thing in those kits. So I had so much left over, so I'm going to use it up here. So I'm just going to create a little bow there on the side. So it looks like that's holding the vellum down. It's kind of an illusion. It's really not, right? So I'm going to stamp this big cluster of branches or stems, whatever you want to call them, with this cluster of, I guess they're kind of like a cherry blossom, not quite too sure, but I just wanted that on the inside. So I'm going to do that on the inside of all the cards I'm doing today. I usually don't do the inside until I'm ready to send the card, but I know who I'm sending this card to. So there you have it. Super, super simple. That was such an easy card. So thank you so much for visiting me today on Let's Case It, Let's Make It. I really hope you're all well and not going too stir crazy at home. So take care, and until I see you again, happy stamping.